Ladies, gentlemen, and kinsects of all ages. What do you mean that they aren't the kinsect? But the kinsect is obviously the one in charge. So the player is the hunter and the kinsect is what? Like a mascot? A valued friend? Okay, got it. Ladies, gentlemen, and humans of all ages, wink. In Monster Hunter Wilds, every weapon I played so far feels like the best version of itself that has ever existed, and the Insect Glaive is no exception. I have tried Insect Glaive in every version of the weapon that has been in a Monster Hunter game, and this is definitely my favorite playstyle that the weapon has ever had. It's fast, it's powerful, it has counter potential through an extremely potent offset attack, and it's just flashy as all hell too. The only negative to Wilds Insect Glaive are the controls to use it on controller, and I have no great solution for that past just practicing and seeing what is most comfortable for your hand size and shape. Personally, I have big ass hands with big ass thumbs, so I hold circle with my thumb while also tapping triangle with the same thumb. Everyone will have different things that work better for their own hands. All that said, if you can get past the controls to begin with, the weapon is so fun to actually play. And so today, with this being one of my most used weapons so far in Monster Hunter Wilds, I'm going to try and break the weapon down into its simplest bits to help out people picking it up for the first time, and then as we progress through the video, we'll get more and more advanced to touch on more relatively deep tricks and maneuvers to hopefully help players who even main the weapon learn something new about their favorite weapon. And of course, we've got hard numbers for the best combo options so you can see what is the best in each sort of timing window as well, essentially. And then some talk about which insect glaives are best, as well as any skills that are particularly good for or with the weapon. And of course, a lot of talk about what type of kinsects you should use and why. Starting off at the top then, how much should you sheathe with this weapon? For the most part, you don't need to sheathe with Insect Glaive unless the monster moves like 15 meters or more away from you thereabouts. Walking speed while unsheathed with the weapon is fine, and if you have red extract, then you can charge strong descending slash while you're walking towards the monster, which is great in general. You also have access to vault using right trigger and X to jump into the air, followed by mid-air evade for a burst of bonus movement, and you can even chain one of your aerial attacks to close the gap on a monster even further, or even just to dodge attacks using vertical movement as well. Moving on then, let's talk about your kinsect itself. We'll talk about which kinsects to use over in the end section of this guide in the equipment section, but for now we'll talk about what the kinsect actually is and how to use it in combat. Your kinsect is an extremely important part of Insect Glaive. It's called Insect Glaive for a reason and not just glaive. Most of your kinsect's attacks will extract an extract from the part of the monster that it hits, which you can see in the little bug symbol under your sharpness gauge. Most kinsects can carry 2 extracts at a time. When the kinsect returns to your hunter, you'll absorb this extract and you'll gain a buff, which will then fill one of the 3 slots to the right of that symbol. The first slot is for red extract, the second slot is for white extract, and the third slot is for orange extract. You will keep these buffs for 90 seconds after absorbing them into your hunter. If you get the buffs at separate times, they will track their timers separately, meaning if you get red buff, then 30 seconds later you get orange buff, then the red buff will drop off 30 seconds earlier than the orange buff. The exception to this is if you get all 3 extracts at the same time. When you absorb your third extract, it will reset the timer on all of them. So when you get all 3, you will then have the full duration before all 3 extracts go away at the same time, and you have to then get them again. Red extract, most importantly, lets you use strong descending slash. You can see my weapon starting to glow as I hold down the button here, and this is one of our weapon's most powerful moves. Typically, red extracts will come from a body part that the monster uses for offense, like heads in general, horns, claws, things like that from a monster. White extract is going to be your mobility buff. This increases your general movement speed, it increases the jump height for your vault into mid-air, and white extract usually comes from the body parts that the monster uses for movement, which means legs for most grounded monsters and wings for most flying monsters. Orange extract is your utility or defense buff. Alone, it will give you a small amount of knockback resistance to those that smaller hits won't flinch you out. Generally speaking, your orange buff will come from sort of middling places on a monster, places that aren't for attack or movement, but also not like tails generally. You'll find this in like general body, like the chest, the neck, maybe like the midsection, the belly, the back. That's generally where your orange buffs will come from. When you have red and white buff, but no orange, you get a small increased attack buff. When you get white and orange buff, but no red buff, you get increased defense. When you have all 3 of the buffs together, that's when the big magic happens. You get all of those duo extract bonuses, all of the singular extract bonuses, and you get access to a bunch of just enhanced moves within the moveset as well. You get to use our singular strongest attack, which you simply cannot do otherwise, And this also gives you some wind pressure negation, tremor negation, and a bit of the earplug skill as well, just to lessen the impact of monster roars. As well, it will give you an even larger attack stat buff on top too. For the most part, extracts are your highest priority in combat, and managing them is extremely important. At minimum, you want red extract before properly fighting a monster every time, because it gives you access to strong descending slash, which is a powerful attack in itself. But this is also your offset attack to essentially parry monsters, which is an extremely big deal. However, ideally, you would just get all 3 extracts before beginning any proper combos on a monster anyways, and it's worth noting that there is also a 4th extract, the green extract. But this doesn't apply to your buff bar or give you any extended effect or anything like that. This just gives you a small heal when your Kinsect returns to you with the actual extract, which is actually quite nice quality of life, sort of baked into the moveset of Insect Glaive. For the most part, green extract just comes from tails above all else, with some few exceptions. With that said, then let's talk about how to get your extracts and how to use your Kinsect. Well, Sheathe, if you press right trigger, you will fire your Kinsect out in front of you in a straight line. It will collect an extract from the first body part that it connects with, then return to you so that you can absorb it. Well, on Sheathe, if you tap right trigger, you'll do a melee attack that marks whatever part of the monster it hits. This will make the Kinsect grab an extract from that part and keep attacking that location until it either runs out of stamina or you use right trigger and circle to call it back. If you hold right trigger, you access Kinsect control mode, you gain a little crosshair that helps you aim, and from here you have 3 options. You can press R1 or the right bumper while holding right trigger to shoot a marker at the monster. The Kinsect will fly towards the body part that was marked, grab an extract from it, and create a powder and continue to attack that spot until it either runs out of stamina or again, you recall it. The type of powder that is created by this depends on the specific Kinsect that you use, and we will cover the powder types later, but this Kinsect leaves behind recovery powder, as an example, which gives you health when you hit the powder while you're missing health. As well, you can use this same input of trigger and R1 while mid-air for the same effect, though it is a bit harder to aim while moving mid-air. Alternatively to this, while you are holding right trigger, you can press triangle to just launch the Kinsect forward in a forward line. This will grab an extract from the first monster party part that it connects with, and then the Kinsect will sit around for a few seconds before returning the extract to your hunter, unless of course you manually recall it. The final option here is if you use right trigger and then triangle, but you hold triangle down like a charged attack. The end of your weapon will start to glow white like this, and then when you release triangle after the glowing starts, your Kinsect will launch forward towards your crosshair, but instead of getting a single extract, it will do a piercing attack that goes through the monster entirely. This will grab an extract from the first body part hit, but then also the second body part as well while it travels through the monster, and this can be incredible for getting some of the harder to reach extracts on certain monsters, and generally speaking I consider this to be the best way of manually gathering extracts, but there are a couple of other ways that I will be saving for later in the video, as they require a little bit more weapon knowledge first to properly understand. That said, that's most of what you need to know for the Kinsect moveset itself, so now let's talk about the glaive half of the Insect Glaive. This weapon only has a couple of main combos, but they can be weaved together, and importantly, you'll have different animations depending on whether or not you are pressing the left stick, so it's important to think about your moveset while you are using this weapon. While sheathe and while moving then, if you press triangle, you will unsheathe into leaping slash. You can also get this animation while unsheathed by pressing forward on the left stick and circle. While standing still while unsheathed, you can press circle for wide sweep, and if you press circle after either leaping slash or wide sweep, you will do overhead smash. All 3 of these attacks can be chained into your triangle combos. While standing still, if you press triangle, you will do rising slash combo. Press triangle again afterwards for reaping slash. Then press it a 3rd time in a row for double slash, which will finish the combo off. If you instead start the combo while moving, you will do sidestep slash, which has a lot more momentum to it and can be used to move any direction while performing the attack, but it does less damage than the stationary triangle does. If you are moving and press triangle after either rising slash combo or sidestep slash, you will do sidestep slash combo. Again, better movement than the standing version controlled by your left stick direction, and while this takes a little bit longer than reaping slash to use, the non-moving second triangle input, it does do more damage. This can then be followed by double slash once again, which is the triangle combo finisher whether you're moving or not. Any step of these triangle combo inputs can then chain into your circle combo as well, either into your overhead smash or into wide sweep, and specifically after any triangle attack, you can hold forward on the left stick and circle for leaping slash, which we talked about earlier, or you can instead hold back on the left stick and circle and you get dodge slash, which is a little back eject that is very useful for positioning where you want to stand. As well, any circle input counts as a reset for your triangle combo too, so that you can start it fresh whenever you want. That's the basic of ground combat covered then, so let's move to the sky. Press right trigger and X at any time to throw yourself up into the sky like so. This is a great evasive maneuver. There are plenty of attacks in the game that can be dodged like this vertically, not specifically the training dummy as you can see, but there are things that can be dodged like this that you may not expect if you're more used to other weapons. Things like the waves from a duna or the tentacles on new udra. Look for those opportunities in different monsters and you will feel extremely rewarded when it pays off. While mid-air, you can press triangle for jumping advanced slash. This moves you forwards as you swing your glaive, and if the final hit of the attack connects with the monster, you'll bounce back up into the air again, allowing you to continue this combo and do it again. You can bounce up off of a monster 3 times from this attack without stopping, but on your 4th usage of it without touching the ground, you won't bounce anymore and will just land after the animation and fully reset. In Wilds, when you connect a hit that bounces you back up into the air, it will also increase your attack for as long as you stay up in the air. So the longer you stay up in the air, the more damage your aerial moves will continue to do. If you then press circle while in the air, you will do jumping slash, and this is essentially your quick way of getting back to the ground while still getting some damage out of it, as this won't bounce you back up into the sky if it hits a monster. The third function, while mid-air, is the mid-air evade with X. You can do this once, refreshed by connecting with jumping advanced slash, so that you get 1 bonus evade per bounce that you get off of the monster for some extra repositioning. That's all of the attacks and combos that you have access to without extracts then, so now let's change things up just a little bit. While you have red extract, you gain a new attack called descending slash. Hold down circle to charge this up. It has 2 charge levels, so you'll see it flash twice before it becomes fully powered up, and then if you release it, you'll do a strong series of slashes, starting with a slowly winding uppercut slash. If this first slash of it hits a monster as they are about to hit you with a physical attack, you will get an offset. This will fully negate the incoming damage. The first time in a hunt that you hit an offset against a monster, you will get a knockdown from that monster too, giving you an opportunity for free damage, which is lovely of course. The monster gains some resistance to this each time that they get knocked down, so it does take more offsets to proc each knockdown, but it is very, very, very strong, especially on the attack that it's on for Insect Glaive, because you can charge descending slash as you walk around, just waiting for the perfect moment to release it for the offset, and then unleash the entire rest of the attack for free while the monster isn't able to hurt you. Alternatively, this is where the control scheme of the weapon gets really funky. You can charge descending slash while also doing other attacks. Specifically, if you press triangle while holding down circle, you can do the reaping slash or sidestep slash combos depending on movement, and while doing so, your descending slash will be actively charging up, which is why my glaive is red. This lets you do really strong combos like rising slash combo, reaping slash, double slash directly into descending slash, and this makes descending slash incredibly versatile. As well, there is a variation of this while mid-air called descending thrust. This is essentially just a way to access the same attack while vaulting, and you can charge it by holding circle while doing evades and jumping advancing slash before you let it go for the thrust combo. This also has an offset, which is the very first part of the attack itself. Now for the final step of the moveset, which is what happens when you have all 3 extract buffs. This activates your strong moveset, by which I mean a number of your normal attacks will now have the word strong in their name when you see them pop up in the training room, and this changes the animation, and as you may guess, makes them simply more powerful. The attacks that this changes are the newly named strong rising slash combo, strong reaping slash, and strong double slash. Sidestep slash and sidestep slash combo do not actually change, and these become way less effective when you have your extracts, so you essentially only want to use them for slight repositioning while still attacking the monster when you have your extracts. Dodge slash and leaping slash also stay the same, but your neutral circle attacks do change, with wide sweep becoming strong wide sweep, and overhead slam being replaced by tornado slash, which is actually quite strong compared to its normal version. Having all 3 extracts also changes descending slash into strong descending slash, as well as descending thrust into strong descending thrust. These just have more hits than the regular versions, and it does notably more damage as well, being one of the strongest parts of our whole moveset now, especially when you consider the offset potential this has too. This is when we get to talk about the new beefiest part of the entire moveset, then rising spiral slash. This is only usable while you have all 3 extracts, and using this attack consumes the extracts immediately. This is also the only attack that Insect Glaive has that does so. You initiate this attack as a follow-up to either strong descending slash or strong descending thrust by pressing circle while in focus mode. Simply enter focus mode during the descending slash if you aren't in it already, then press circle as it ends to initiate initiate Rising Spiral Slash. Your Kinsect will also hit all of the body parts with you during this animation, so you can actually fully refill on extracts against some monsters if you position this correctly, which is quite neat to note as well. At the end of this animation then, this will also leave you in the air, ready to do any of your aerial attacks as you please. That's all of the basic attacks, inputs, and combos to start off then. Hopefully I was able to make that somewhat digestible, as Insect Glaive is a very nuanced and complex weapon as far as the base moveset and how it interacts with the Kinsect and the extracts and all the stuff like that. Before I move on then, a quick note that yes, the controls do sort of suck currently for controller users. There are a couple of settings that can make it a bit more manageable. I am a massive fan personally of putting focus mode on toggle, which you can do in the control section of the settings, especially for Insect Glaive, both because it doesn't remove any functionality of the weapon to be in focus mode, so it's just one less input to think about, and because focus mode itself actually boosts Insect Glaive significantly in ways that other weapons don't get. Specifically, focus mode on Insect Glaive does the standard thing of making your character rotation match your camera direction, and this gives you an unexpectedly large turn radius before each and every attack, letting you simply hit attacks that you may otherwise just miss without having focus mode active. For Insect Glaive, however, it also makes your Kinsect attack with you for certain moves, which increases your damage and gets you bonus extracts. For Rising Slash combo, Sidestep Slash, the first moving triangle hit, Double Slash, Overhead Smash, and Tornado Slash, which is just the overhead smash when you have 3 extracts, and then for any of your aerial attacks and Rising Spiral Slash as well, your Kinsect will automatically attack alongside you when you have focus mode active. This is especially useful because it will grab an extract when you do any of these attacks in focus mode and deliver it back to you near instantly. This is extremely useful, and in Wilds, one of the best ways to actually get extracts is just using focus mode and triangle combo attacks on the body that you want the extract from, especially as this lets you actively keep damaging the monster while gathering your extracts too. As well, of course, a majority part of the focus mode itself is Focus Strike, called Leaping Strike for Insect Glaive. You can do this either while grounded or mid-air, and if this connects with a wounded monster part, you will attach to them, push off with the Insect Glaive, and then send your Kinsect piercing through the monster. This will automatically gather red, white, and orange buff all in one go, no matter what part it actually connects with on the monster, as well as doing some decent damage and destroying the wound. This is your fastest, most efficient way to get fully buffed up with all 3 extracts, and you should always do this if you need extracts and a wound is available. Always, always, always. But a wound won't always be available, and that's why we've talked about every other method of gathering extracts. Focus Strike is by far the best way, but you can't do it without a wounded body part to actually hit. An important consideration for this as well is the interaction with Rising Spiral Slash. Rising Spiral Slash can only be used when you have all 3 buff extracts, and then it consumes all of them on use, but it is extremely powerful. If there is a wounded body part for you to hit directly after Rising Spiral Slash, then you can then immediately fill all of your extracts up again, no problem, and then just start looking for your next Rising Spiral Slash extremely quickly. But again, this is wound dependent, but something that you should absolutely be aware of. All that said, as we continue, again I want to mention that Strong Descending Slash is an offset attack, and I really want to hammer home how big of a deal that is. The most important part of any combo is not getting hit by a monster, and learning to time Strong Descending Slash to offset to ignore a monster attack is the best way of doing that, because an offset means that you don't get hit, and you'll likely hit every part of Descending Slash, and also be in a good position for Rising Spiral Slash to follow it up, which is our strongest attack by far. So please keep that in mind as we dive into this next section here. There's just no easy mathematical way to value an offset, but on Insect Glaive it is higher in my opinion than any combo we're about to go over. Moving on then, that's most of the actual things laid out for the weapon moveset, so now let's talk about which combos are the best, the optimal ways to deal damage with the weapon. I have collected a bunch of numbers to help explain this. All of these are from the training room with exactly 100 raw attack, no affinity, so no crits, no element or status, no wounds, so minimal damage variation in every way possible to allow consistent testing. On this table, each combo is described by the moves that are used and the order I use them in. Then the time is the time that it takes to do the combo from start until you are able to press more inputs and start a new combo. Damage is the damage done during the combo, and DPS is a measure of the damage done per second while performing the combo. And this is generally the best measure of how strong a combo actually is. That said, this is just a bunch of numbers, and numbers are great, they are useful, they help us understand the weapon better, but now let's apply some real life context to it. The first 2 combos on the list are a comparison without any extracts, just to show you that, interestingly, Sidestep Slash combo instead of Reaping Slash as the middle input of the triangle combo is stronger when you don't have extracts. But when once you have all 3 of your extracts, this stops being a thing to even consider, as it just doesn't give a strong buffed variation. It's just an interesting thing to note. I've also got here that basic triple triangle combo with extracts but in focus mode, which is what makes the Kinsect attack with you in tandem. You can see it's a pretty big damage increase from the same combo being not in focus mode. A bit more than 15% bonus damage in this specific instance. I won't be going over the focus and non-focus variations of the other combos, especially as Kinsect attacks add a lot of variation and lose some control for testing purposes, but the long and short of it is that being in focus mode when you do your attacks increases your damage by a notable amount. You should always be in focus mode when you're able to while you're attacking for optimal damage. There are no negatives to being in focus mode, especially when it's set to toggle, except that you need to be a bit more active with your camera movements. And for Insect Glaive specifically, it is an undeniable damage increase doing these same combos in focus mode as it is to do them without. So always use focus mode. That said, some attacks will use this interaction, whether in focus mode or not, which does inflate their value a touch on this table. The numbers themselves aren't 100% representative of the gameplay, but that's why we're talking about it and giving extra context, rather than me just putting the numbers up on screen and walking away and letting you look at them for a few minutes. Strong Wide Sweep and Tornado Slash as attacks are fine, but as their own combo is very weak. They're much better being used as combo extenders or combo breakers, interrupting your other attacks to change what you are doing or change your position, with Leap Slash and Dodge pretty much only being for repositioning while doing some small bits of damage at the same time, and that's it. That said, you can extend the triangle combo and make it infinitely loopable by pressing circle at the end of it, for a full chain of strong rising slash combo, strong reaping slash, strong double slash, and then tornado slash. This can be done on loop as long as you like for our simplest infinite combo. Then we have strong rising slash combo into strong reaping slash into strong descending slash. I mentioned earlier that you can do triangle attacks while holding down circle to charge strong descending slash, and you will be at level 2 charge, the maximum after the first 2 inputs of the triangle combo. So another infinitely loopable combo is strong rising slash combo, strong reaping slash, then releasing your charged strong descending slash. If you start holding circle right after releasing the strong descending slash, you can then press triangle as soon as the attack ends, and you'll perform rising slash combo while charging to reset the loop. This is our first mega strong combo as far as the damage per second, and this isn't like a trick of the numbers or something confusing going on here. That is genuinely how strong it is to do this. You're not missing any context, and the reason for this is simply the ability to charge descending slash while you're doing other attacks at the same time. It essentially lets you chain a normal combo into a charged attack without waiting for the actual charge time at all. A similar combo that I've seen players using a lot that I think is weaker is strong rising slash combo, strong reaping slash, then strong double slash, and then strong descending slash after charging it during the first 3 hits. This is a fine combo, but as the numbers show, this is not only almost 2 seconds longer as a combo, but the damage per second is actually lower than just releasing the strong descending slash after the strong reaping slash, because strong descending slash itself is the main damage of the combo. So this is generally your sort of ideal perfect situation, bread and butter combo for the most part if you're looking to infinitely loop. Strong rising slash combo, strong reaping slash, and then strong descending slash. That said, you get a very large damage increase when you also add in rising spiral slash. This is by far our strongest singular move. Generally speaking, I recommend trying to limit rising spiral slash usage to only when you know you can get at least the majority of the hits in. If a monster is downed, rising spiral slash is perfect. If a monster is stationary, maybe they're roaring, maybe that doesn't affect you because you're using Insect Glaive and you've got a little bit of earplugs to back that up, then it's a perfect time for using rising spiral slash. Is the monster doing a charge attack or moving towards another player, they're doing something with a lot of momentum, maybe it's not the right time for rising spiral slash. The other consideration is positioning and timing for rising spiral slash too. The biggest negative of the attack is that it consumes all of your extracts when you use it, so we have to go and pick them all up again. The exception to this is, as mentioned earlier, if you find the spot on a monster where rising spiral slash can connect with a red extract body part, a white extract body part, and an orange extract body part at the same time, which would allow you to fully refresh your extracts during the attack that spends them. Generally speaking, this will be very inconsistent to line up though, but my general rule of thumb for this is to try and always get red buff back at minimum when using rising spiral slash, so that I still have access to descending slash, and I can play around with that in the offsets while I gather the other extracts. That said, just like the non-rising spiral slash version of the combo, it is technically more efficient to do 2 triangle inputs into descending slash into rising spiral slash rather than doing the full 3 triangle inputs beforehand. However, it also depends on how much of a timing window you have. If you have 7 seconds to do the slightly shorter combo, then you will most often still have 8.2 seconds for the full combo instead, and the damage per second is essentially identical between the two, so the choice between the 2 triangle inputs or 3 is pretty situational. You will get better at deciding which with practice, pretty much. That said, for reference comparison, we also have the numbers on descending slash and rising spiral slash with pure charging up, not using any attacks while you're charging, and as expected, the number for the actual damage per second while doing that goes down a very large amount compared to using attacks while you're charging. That said, rising spiral slash by itself is so ridiculously strong that this is still a very good combo if you get full hits on the rising spiral slash itself, and there are absolutely situations in which that is a great option to use. I should also mention it's on the table, but rising spiral slash only hits the training dummy 3 times, whereas it can hit monsters up to 5 times if they are big enough and you're positioned well, which means that rising spiral slash actually performs better in actuality than it does even on this spreadsheet, which is crazy to say. It's also worth mentioning, specifically when you are repositioning towards a monster, I will always be holding down circle to charge your descending slash. Then when I am in range of hitting the monster, I will decide what to do next, whether that be to immediately release descending slash or use some rising slash combo types moves to actually delay it a little bit longer and wait for the opportunity to offset the monster. That covers all the ground attacks in the way that I treat ground moves in general, so now let's look at the aerial moveset section of the table. The thing that you will immediately notice is that when looking at the full combos, of course, instead of single attacks, this is simply worse output than playing ground Insect Glaive. This isn't a new thing in Wilds, so aerial Insect Glaive has always been the weaker side of the weapon, but it's very important to be aware of that. Aerial Insect Glaive isn't necessarily bad, it's not unplayable, especially if you still play around descending thrust a lot and fit in rising spiral slash afterwards too, but it is definitively, notably worse than just playing on the ground for Insect Glaive as far as the pure damage numbers. That said, there are situational exceptions to this too. Things like flying monsters are just way easier to hit with aerial attacks consistently. Some monsters have wings that are much weaker to damage and take more damage than things like their head or their legs, which makes aerial moves actually better against them. And importantly, I often use Vault itself and the mid-air evade to just avoid attacks from monsters. And when you do that and you're already in the air, you may as well use some aerial attacks before you land as well. That said, for a bit of numbers on how the aerial damage increases actually work, after 1 successful jumping advancing slash, the damage of your next jumping advancing slash goes up by around 10% compared to the first one. The damage of descending thrust goes up by around 20% compared to using it directly out of the initial vault. After 2 successful jumping advancing slashes, the damage of your next jumping advancing slash is around 30% higher than the first one, and your strong descending thrust damage goes up around 50% compared to using it directly out of vault, so it is actually quite a good increase. As well, strong descending thrust gains a piercing Kinsect bonus attack after your aerial attacks have been boosted to either of these stages for a bit of extra bonus damage on top too. Next up, some extra bits of tech then. Insect Glaive in Wilds actually has gained a viable wake up hit option. Specifically, this does use barrel bombs as the actual hit that gets double damage from waking up a sleeping monster, but in a very powerful way for the weapon as well. Specifically, if you have all 3 extracts, you can charge up your descending slash and then release it at the barrel bomb to explode it. Because you have orange extract, you will be knockback resistant enough that with descending slash, you won't be flinched by the barrel bomb explosion, but it will still allow you to hit the remaining damage of descending slash into the monster as it wakes up. Not to mention that because you'll have all 3 extracts anyways, you can then combo that into rising spiral slash while the monster is standing, which is incredible value whenever a sleep comes out solo. That said, in multiplayer, I would still definitely let the beefier weapons like greatsword or hammer or gunlance do the wake up hit. This is simply a solid option for solo or when the group is using barrel bombs anyways. On another note, there are a couple of other ways to enter your aerial attacks without using vault as well. The first is by rolling off of a ledge while unsheathed, and then you can do just any of your aerial attacks to follow that up. The second is by literally just running at a wall while unsheathed, and you run up a bit, and if you pull back on a stick, you will be able to do any of your normal aerial attacks. The third is while sliding. If you are sliding down a slope and press triangle, you would do jumping, advancing, slash. The fourth and final bonus way of using an aerial attack technically is to go off of the Seikret, where you can jump to dismount, and pressing triangle while Sheathe midair will do jumping, advancing, slash. Your dismount attack itself from the Seikret is also its own animation that honestly isn't all that strong, to be real with you, and will not bounce you back up into the air either. And while riding your Seikret, you can press triangle and hold it down for an extended bit of glaive spinning to hit anything that you are riding alongside. Finally then, just for completion's sake, here is what your sneak attack animation looks like as well. That covers everything I can think of as far as actually playing the weapon then and using it while in the world and in combat as well. So now let's talk about choosing which insect glaive, and importantly, which kinsects to use as well. Unlike other weapons, insect glaives have a bonus stat called Kinsect level. This decides the end value of your kinsect's main stats. Your kinsect's element will also always match your insect glaive itself, as will the amount of element that it will do, but the kinsect level determines the little orange boxes when you are looking at the kinsects themselves. More orange boxes means the kinsect is better at that specific thing. Powder effect depends on the specific kinsect you're using, and the options for this are blast powder, which will explode when you hit it, doing a small amount of damage and applying blast buildup to the monster. There is also paralysis and poison powder as options too, which do small amounts of damage and then apply their own status buildup when popped as well. The final option is recovery powder, and this quite simply heals you when you destroy the powder by hitting it with a weapon or with the kinsect, or if anyone else hits it either. You can also use specifically recovery powder for healing allies in multiplayer, as powder does affect an area, which is a cool thing to know too. Power, then, on this list is the literal damage of your kinsect's hits, speed is the actual movement speed, and then stamina is how long your kinsect can stay out and attacking before it needs to return to your arm and recharge. There are two main types of kinsect: severing damage or blunt damage kinsects, with severing damage meaning that your kinsect can cut off parts like tails or tentacles, but blunt damage kinsects are able to stun monsters when they hit them in the head. Every kinsect is visually different from each other, and there are 12 different maximum upgraded kinsects total, but realistically there are 6 sets of stats and effects, and each set is shared by 1 severing and 1 blunt kinsect. Carnage Beetle for blunt then, and then Monarch Alucinid for severing, is a poison powder type kinsect. High power, low speed, and stamina. These bonuses that it has are Kinsect combo boost element, and this very specifically boosts the element damage from your kinsect when attacking in focus mode to make it combo with your hits, so when doing element focused builds, these are a pretty good choice for extra damage. Kinsect boosts stamina recovery, increases the stamina recovery rate of your kinsect quite simply. Bonne Fille for blunt weapons, and then Empress Wing for severing is a recovery powder kinsect. High power, low speed, average stamina. This has the bonus attack boost powder, which increases the potency of powders. For recovery powder, which is what this kinsect has, this will make it simply heal more. Kinsect boost fast charge makes it faster to charge up your kinsect for the piercing shot that gathers a bunch of extracts, and this takes about half a second off of the charge time for that attack, but I don't value that particularly highly, at least by itself. For the most part, this is just the kinsects that you would use for massive amounts of healing through powders, which means it will also heal any group members in multiplayer hunts too, as I mentioned earlier. Arkmaiden then for blunt, and then Fiddlebricks for severing are your blast powder kinsects with low power and speed but high stamina. These have Kinsect boost harvest extract, which makes it so the charged piercing kinsect attack can gather 3 extracts instead of only 2, which personally I think is super high value against most monsters, and a lot of them you can get red, white, and orange buff just by firing this down a line. Then we have Kinsect boost fast charge again, which synergizes nicely with harvest extract 2, and these are my personal 2 favorite kinsects, and I'll go into a bit more detail on that a little bit later on. Then we have Lady Pavise for blunt, and then Kincada Man for severing kinsects, and these are also paralysis powder kinsects. Low power, medium speed, medium stamina, and they come with Kinsect combo boost element, which we talked about before, and Kinsect stamina boost recovery, which we also talked about before. These are another good option for element focused builds specifically, but I prefer this to the earlier choice that I mentioned, as this comes with paralysis powder, which can be a big help on a hunt. Then we also have Whisper Vesp for blunt, and then Pseudocath for severing for your blast powder kinsects. These are medium power, the highest speed possible, but low stamina, and they come with attack boost powder, which in this case makes the blast powder stronger, and then it also has Kinsect boost fast charge. These are the fastest kinsects, and that was generally the most sought after stat in previous games, but in Monster Hunter Wilds, because your kinsect attacks with you in focus mode, you don't always need to send out your bug to gather extracts manually, and when you do, you'd generally be better off using the charged piercing Kinsect attack, for which there is a Kinsect that is just completely built for that purpose that isn't this one. This is still, however, totally worth using if speed is your preference for this, but it's much less of a simple choice than it was in prior Monster Hunter games. That said, finally, Bull Shroud for blunt, and then Grand Cathar for severing are your recovery powder Kinsects. Low power, high speed, medium stamina, and then Kinsect combo boost element and extract boost recovery, which boosts the effectiveness of the green extract. Quite simply, these are your choices for pairing with element focused builds when you want some extra healing. All that said, now that we've gone over all of the options, really my simplified recommendation is to use either the Arkmaiden or obviously the Fiddlebricks as the other option, which is the same set of stats. Kinsect boost, harvest extract, and fast charge combined make this the most consistent Kinsect for quickly generating extracts because of that piercing multi-hit attack that you can do with them. Our strongest attack and our strongest combos with Insect Glaive consume all of our extracts, which makes these Kinsects really good even in element setups too, because they let you use Rising Spiral Slash more often. As for Arkmaiden versus Fiddlebrick specifically, blunt versus severing essentially, Arkmaiden is the technically better choice in most situations. It deals blunt damage, which means it can build up KO and get stuns on the monster, which are knockdowns that allow you to do extra free damage, though Fiddlebricks is the same in every other way except for visuals of course, and I sort of prefer Fiddlebricks personally visually speaking. Moving on then, let's talk about the actual Insect Glaives themselves. There is no value currently in Wilds in going for pure elementless weapons, as especially in the endgame, weapons that have elements or status will have the same raw attack numbers as an elementless weapon will, meaning that you are essentially just throwing away free damage or free statuses if you go elementless. That said, as of this current point in Monster Hunter Wilds, none of the important endgame high tier monsters are weak enough to elements to make it worth going for full element focused builds on Insect Glaive right now. But generally speaking, the best option is to use an Insect Glaive build that focuses on raw attack and affinity, but with the weapon itself just having whatever element the monster happens to be weakest to as a sort of bit of bonus damage that you can have on top, and this will output the most damage as a result. Generally speaking, as of right now, for the top tier of difficult monsters, a dragon element Insect Glaive will do the best job if you don't want to bother making a different one for every element. Blast status is also pretty solid for general damage, and paralysis and poison are solid options with Insect Glaive as well, though a little bit more niche to build around. That said, for the most part, all of the best Insect Glaives right now for endgame are artian weapons. The crafted weapons aren't crazy far behind them, and for things like ice or fire, they are more than usable in comparison to an artian weapon if you just like the way they look more, but a lot of Insect Glaives come with Power Prolonger on the natural weapon tree. Power Prolonger extends the duration that your extract buffs last for before they need to be reapplied, and this was very useful in previous games, but right now the strongest way by far of playing Insect Glaive is to spend your extracts with Rising Spiral Slash as often as you can, and that makes Power Prolonger absolutely worthless if you play that way because you're never going to reach the timers anyways. So sadly, artian weapons do tend to be the way, at least right now. As for sharpness on Insect Glaive, it is a sharpness gobbling weapon, but interestingly it should be noted that most Insect Glaive hits will use less than a full hit of sharpness value. As for the amount of sharpness you want white sharpness of course as the highest damage boost you can get from it, and you want 40 hits or so of white sharpness to play comfortably with Insect Glaive without needing to sharpen more than once per zone. For weapon skills specifically, I did talk about Power Prolonger already, but I do also want to touch on Focus as a skill here too. One of our strongest attacks is a charge attack in Monster Hunter Wilds, and Focus makes charged attacks charge faster. However, due to a combination of level 3 Focus only increasing the charge speed by about a fifth of a second, 0.2 seconds, and the fact that we can use other attacks while charging anyways, so charging isn't really a bad thing for us, I don't rate Focus as a skill very highly for Insect Glaive, though that said, it is something that you can play with for very slightly faster offset availability if that's what you're after. And so there is one weapon skill that very specifically applies to Insect Glaive that doesn't really apply to much else, which is Airborne. This comes on 3 slot decorations with a combo rank of another skill at the highest rarity, which can be very high value, and Airborne by itself as a skill increases the damage of jump attacks by 10%. And while yes, this does include your entire aerial moveset in general, it very importantly works for Rising Spiral Slash as well, which again is our strongest attack with Insect Glaive, playing fully grounded or otherwise. So Airborne is a really big damage increase even when you're not playing an aerial focused build, because Rising Spiral Slash is an aerial attack. Past that, it's just your generic weapon skills for Insect Glaive, really the same sort of priority that they would apply to any other weapon. Moving on, we have armor skills as well, and for the most part you've got a very standard armor skill priority. The same sort of things that are good for most weapons are good for Insect Glaive. Burst is super good offensively. All of our biggest attacks hit more than 5 times, and Rising Spiral Slash will always follow Strong Descending Thrust or Strong Descending Slash, which means that the full bonus is guaranteed to be active for your biggest attack. Maximum Might is also great as a skill within Monster Hunter Wilds when played ground style for Insect Glaive, which is the higher damage way of playing the weapon anyways, as none of our attacks on the ground consume stamina. We also have a readily available offset that we can use instead of rolling to avoid spending stamina as well. Aside from that, the main thing that I would consider is slotting in a rank of earplugs to your build for Insect Glaive as well as an option, as Insect Glaive naturally gets some roar resistance when you have all 3 of your extract buffs, and slotting in a single rank of earplugs boosts that up to ignore the majority of roars in the entire game, even from Apex monsters, letting you get in bonus Rising Spiral Slashes as a result, creating new openings. Simple as that. Aside from that, Insect Glaive doesn't have anything too specific compared to what other weapons can get from their armor skills. And that pretty much does it for today then, everyone. This has been one of the longest videos I have ever made, so thank you for sticking with me this far. And hopefully I've been able to help you out and teach you something, whether you're someone picking up Insect Glaive for the first time, or someone who has mained the weapon since it was first added to the series. And for those of you out there who are Insect Glaive mains, if you have any knowledge to drop or any bonus tips that I may not have mentioned, feel free to leave them in the comments down below as well to spread it out to your fellow hunters. But this has essentially been everything that I know about Insect Glaive in Monster Hunter Wilds, emptied out of my head and turned into a video. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.